Coming up next on the voice of Alabama politics, fundraiser or shakedown. Also, the V team takes a look at education dollars wasted and who bankrolled the girlfriend fund.
Greed?
Yeah, greed. Not funny, but true. All this and much, much more coming up next on the V. Welcome to the voice of Alabama politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by the V team. Welcome all.
Hi guys.
Hello.
Yeah, we have made it through summer. We're heading into political silly season.
Football season.
Football season.
At least now we have something to occupy our time.
That's right. Something we can all agree to disagree about.
Exactly. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Something that we hope that the court will agree to let go forward, Chip. This past week, Spencer Collier, the former head of ALEA, has been suing Robert Bentley's for like 3 years now.
Yeah, long time.
And can't get any traction with this case. But recently they asked for Bentley to be compelled to release the names of the people he knows that gave to Ace Gov, which we effectively or affectionately refer to as the girlfriend fund, because Rebecca Caldwell Mason, his alleged girlfriend, was paid by this nonprofit. Mm-hmm. So Greg Griffin, circuit court judge, is having a hearing on that this coming week. And I think if they'd expose those names, it could get very interesting.
Yeah, it's going to get really interesting because former Governor Bentley knows who was donating. I mean, the whole reason that PAC was set up was to help him out. So you know that he knows who was donating to it. And hopefully we'll find out because that will get really interesting.
Susan, there's, these 501c4s, C3s, you can hide behind them. Mm-hmm. Got to be some big names, right?
There's got to be some big names. And yeah, you can hide behind them, but here's the catch. Bentley was not on the board. He was not a founding member, but he was the one who did the donating. So for him to give information, or for them to ask him for information, it doesn't get covered by that wall.
He was fundraising, right?
And so we have a suspicion of who some of those names are, and I got a feeling those folks don't want their names out there as having supported Bentley, especially now.
Josh, I mean, Governor Kay Ivey could have settled this thing 3 years or a year ago. Yeah. She promised, she sent her emissary over to tell Spencer they would settle the suit or bring him back in as a ALEA chief. They haven't done anything. Is this good politics?
No, and I don't understand why. I think if Griffin rules that this can go forward and that they're going to disclose this, I would assume that we're going to very quickly settle this because there's no way. Some of the people who donated to this fund are some of her donors as well. And there's no way that they want to be associated with paying Rebecca Mason, and all. I mean, it's just, she's not. I guess she's kind of a governmental pariah at this point. But I mean, it's you can't be associated with that now. After all the fallout, and so I just don't understand the whole thing. Why are we still doing this?
Well, and that's what doesn't make any sense to me. We've spent, the state has spent over $300,000, Susan, defending Robert Bentley for firing Spencer Collier. And we keep spending every time John Nyman and that bunch from Maynard Cooper Gale gets together, it's several $1,000s.
But let's not forget why Robert Bentley fired Spencer Collier. Because Spencer Collier wouldn't lie to a sitting attorney general.
Yeah.
Okay? He wouldn't lie like Bentley told him to lie to him.
John Nyman, Bentley's attorney, said, well, that was okay.
It's all right.
It's nonsense. I mean, look, if any reasonable person that looks back at this can look at what Spencer Collier did and say, look, that wasn't right. It wasn't right what happened with Spencer here. Why not just pay the man what he was? At this point, if you'd offered him $300,000 at the beginning of this, it would probably taken it, and the whole thing would be over with.
And Nyman, isn't it Nyman who says he'll basically bankrupt the state if he has to, just to make sure?
Well, that would be very hard.
That wouldn't be hard. But I think he said he'd spend every money in the legal defense fund.
Okay. And just to remind people, it wasn't like he just got fired. There was retaliation.
Yeah.
People accused him of rape and sexual assault, and through the Aaliyah report, that was erroneous. Yeah. It was.
They tried to ruin the man after they fired him. They tried to ruin him, so nobody else would hire him.
They did.
So it's nonsense.
And unfortunately, in Alabama, there is no law. There is no criminal law that protected him from Bentley doing this. Yeah. The only restitution is civil.
Yep.
And if they don't pay him a bunch of money, then he's never going to get his reputation back.
No.
Yeah, they even tried to get into his medical records at that point.
Oh, and like he was a drug addict.
Traces.
They said that they fired him because he took too many sick leave days initially. Yeah. He was too sick.
And it was all a pack of lies. He didn't want to lie to the prosecution in Mike Hubbard case. Bentley wanted him to lie. It's as simple as that. And they fired him for that. Craziness. Well, as things might go in political silly season, Josh, Brent Buchanan, a top political aide to the state Senate Republican caucus, works with Senator Pro Tem Del Marsh and Senator Reed, who's the majority leader, sent out a fundraising email this week where he basically said, let us know how much money you're going to send one of our candidates, and click reply all, because we want the leadership to see how much you're helping.
Yeah, which is, essentially a shakedown.
Yeah.
Well, it's really
a shakedown.
What are we doing here? Yeah, it is. It's without saying the shakedown. It's without sending the goons over to the house to break your legs. It's basically a shakedown. But I miss Democrats being in charge. They just wanted some suits and a dinner. Well, and it was over. Now these guys want a minimum of $2,500. That's the minimum.
It's just a $2,500 dinner.
Yeah.
You don't get dinner, do you?
You don't even get dinner. No.
But you just show up.
There's an extra fee for dinner.
But Susan, in all seriousness, you got these guys. They send it out to all the lobbyists and to the businesses that have business before the state of Alabama.
Yeah.
So what they're saying, in essence, is you either give us $2,500 to $12,500, or when you come around trying to do business with the state.
Yeah.
Well, you've got the friends of Carlotta, and you've got the enemies of Carlotta. Okay, that's essentially what they're doing here.
Yeah.
Seriously, are you going to be our friend? Or if you give me a check, we'll be your friend. But if you don't give me a check,
way goodbye to the business.
Other than politics, Chip, where is that not extortion?
I don't know. And it's not abnormal for politicians to ask for money for political contributions, but this is just.
Yeah, there's a real.
So everybody can see.
Reply all, so everybody can see, and you can be pressured to give money.
Yeah. So there's a real hint of pay to play here.
Yeah.
If you want this contract,
we're trying to qualify what we're saying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Of course, I was talking to a former Democrat lobbyist who said, "Well, there was some pay to play back when the Democrats were in charge." But we actually got to play and have fun.
Yeah.
He said, these guys are so moralistic about it that we have to pay them, but we can't have any fun.
Man, we took half the $2,500 and went to a strip club.
I've never been to. If the people that were giving the check, it wasn't an open bar. They still had to pay for the drinks.
That's right. They're conservative.
Yeah.
All right, let's leave it right there. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back with more news and opinion.
You'll never guess what 400,000 people in the U.S. were using when they crashed their cars last year. No, not this. This. Distracted driving will kill you. Drive safe, Alabama. A message from your Alabama Department of Transportation.
Hey, I'm Rick. And I'm Bubba from the Rick and Bubba Show. And if you know anything about us, you know we like to have fun.
However, there's one thing that's no laughing matter. We believe that everyone should be registered to vote. and they should have a qualified government-issued photo ID.
In order to have your voice heard and your vote counted, you must be registered to vote and have a photo ID.
Join Bubba and me and register to vote, and let's work together to make Alabama all it can be.
When it comes to fighting for the district, we can count on Tom Watley. From the War on Terror to Montgomery, Tom fought for our values. Tom delivered critical road funding to keep our infrastructure growing. Tom listened to parents to grow early childhood education. And Tom reformed taxes, keeping a promise to never raise taxes on working families. Tom Watley listens, reforms, delivers. Because fighting for our community is what he's done his whole life.
2/3 of drivers who died in car crashes chose to ignore this warning. Seatbelts save lives. Drive safe, Alabama. A message from your Alabama Department of Transportation.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. And we want to move on from that subject, but your point was well taken that conservatives do make you pay for your drinks, that the liberals usually fill you full with whatever your choice of.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're nice, happy
Free
people.
card.
Yeah, we happy people. We like to spread things around.
They got to make $1. Got to make $1.
Yeah.
Easier to get a bigger check when you got them a little bit tipsy.
Yeah, that's true. Well, no, if you're shaking them down.
Well, that's true.
You can either get it with a gun or a drink.
Yeah.
Or an email in this case.
Reply all email.
Reply all.
So, Chip, you've written a lot about this. The prosecution in the Mike Hubbard case is asked for a rehearing on count 5. Mm-hmm. The Court of Criminal Appeals, I know I said it wrong, Criminal Appeals, Court of Criminal Appeals is considering whether they will rehear it. They probably won't, but they would like to have it.
So, the prosecution is asking that the court rehear just count 5. That's the only one that the prosecution lost. It's the one that they overturned. But it is kind of unlikely that they'll rehear it. They'll probably deny the rehearing there, and they'll probably also deny the request from Hubbard for a rehearing on the whole thing, which was also filed last Monday. So that they're going to deny that, and then that will start the process of getting it to the Supreme Court, and then we'll see if they take it from there.
Josh, I was struck by how much your editorial piece about count 5 and the Attorney General's motion were similar.
Yeah,
they were not as funny as you.
Well, no, but I mean,
but their analysis was the same.
And I don't understand what my check is. I mean, all these other guys get paid for the outside legal counsel through the AG's office. I mean, can I not get one contract? I mean, really,
Evidently not.
For helping out.
Everybody else gets contracts, why not?
No, but in all honesty, it's more common sense than anything else. I mean, it really is. I mean, you look at what was claimed by the judge there at the appeals court. It's just nonsense. It's not that all this is so confusing that people can't follow it. It's only confusing if your intent in going to the legislature is to make money off of your office.
Yeah.
If you have no intentions of doing that, if you're just going to take the salary that's given, go down and represent your people, you'll never have an issue. You'll never have anybody interpret anything for you, and none of these laws will ever come into play in your life, ever.
Well, the court's whole basis for overturning that charge was that they used the definition of a public employee and replaced that with the employee in the charges.
Yes.
Saying that, Hubbard didn't have more than 50% of his income from any single contract. But you can't just take and move definitions around in a...
Well, you can.
You can. The law states that if there is not a written definition for something, you go with what is the most accepted common knowledge. And that's what prosecution is saying here.
But that's what they did, and I really think it's because they wanted to get him out of one charge, and this one especially, because remember, with this definition, any lawmaker can vote on legislation and be paid for it, and it not be a conflict of interest.
Yes.
He was a contractor anyway. This is just like subcontracting to people, or contracting to people, or having stringers.
There
are tons of people that don't get 50% of their income from any single one place.
And it would be just as illegal. I mean, there's no explanation. There's no rationale.
The only thing I can think of is that some of their buddies over there have voted for something with a conflict of interest,
Yes.
and they say, hey, help me out over here.
Yeah.
And Hubbard was getting $5,000 a month from APCI.
From
one
one
of his contracts.
client.
And that one contract is more than a lot of people make in
Yeah.
a whole month.
Yeah.
Their whole job.
let's face it.
Pharmaceutical contract.
What?
It was a pharmaceutical contract for a guy with a communications degree.
Right.
I got a communications degree.
He was
well,
also contracted to Southeastern Gas District.
Yeah.
What does a communications guy know about gas?
He's full of gas.
Well, yeah, full of something.
All right, we got to move on.
That one.
Y'all are so mean.
So generally speaking, Susan, when you run for office, if you've had a good relationship with folks over the years, maybe a partner or somebody.
A mentor, maybe?
Mentor,
Yeah.
somebody that you've stayed close to over the years. Usually they back you in office. They go, hey, so-and-so's a good Joe or a good Jill. But this didn't happen in Marshall County. Steve Marshall, longtime DA up there, he has a law partner. Guy was his law partner for 10, almost 12 years. He was his political mentor, Jeff McLaughlin, considered one of the most honest politicians ever to grace the political stage in Alabama. He is supporting Joe Siegelman, who he barely knows, over Steve Marshall, who he's known for a decade. What do you think that's all about?
Well, he is a Democrat, right?
You mean
And,
Marshall or McLaughlin?
McLaughlin is a Democrat.
Marshall was.
And Siegelman is a Democrat, so naturally that's got to be the connection, right?
That's it.
That's it. That's the only connection. McLaughlin's only made two contributions during this entire election season. One was to Chris Christie before the primary. The second one was to Joe Siegelman before the general.
Yeah.
That is the only contribution he's made to anyone
So it's
in
not
the
like
state.
he's supporting the entire ticket.
There has to be a message there. Otherwise, why not just not donate to anybody?
Yeah.
Yeah. Josh, what do you make of that? Anything?
I mean, if I was a guy's former law partner, I think I would do the same thing. I've talked to a lot of people, and I think a lot of people are surprised by the way Steve Marshall has acted over the last year and a half or 2 years here. I think that they're genuinely surprised by him. They thought of him as a pretty decent guy, and I think that they feel like he's come to Montgomery and been corrupted to a certain extent. And you see it in some of the actions that he's aligned himself with certain groups to stay in that office there. And I think it's really hurt his reputation with some people who have been with him for a long time.
Actually, he corrupted himself to get to Montgomery when he promised Robert Bentley that he would stop any investigation into him if he would give him the seat.
Yeah. Well, we know for certain that he told Robert Bentley and his people that he would investigate Matt Hart and Van Davis if he gave him the job. Chip, Bentley and his team asked everyone they interviewed, would they do that? Marshall was the only one who said yes.
Anyway. And there were tons of other people who wouldn't take the job at all.
Yeah, right.
People with a lot of integrity who said, I'm not going to be a Bentley appointee. And even the appearance of a quid pro quo is bad.
Yeah.
Well, it is. We got about 20 seconds here. In August, at least, Joseph Siegelman, first-time candidate, son of Don Siegelman, raised a little bit more money, or about the same amount of money as Marshall did, Susan. So maybe it's a little competitive.
The interesting thing here is, again, just like we were talking about last week in another race, there were 4 times as many contributors to Siegelman as there were.
Yeah.
Well, and over 50% of Marshalls were corporate.
Corporate PACs, all that stuff.
Yeah, he's a master at that pack-to-pack thing.
Yeah, right. All right, well, we're going to have to leave it right there. You're watching The Bee, the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back with more news and analysis.
You'll never guess what 400,000 people in the U.S. were using when they crashed their cars last year. No, not this. This. Distracted driving will kill you. Drive safe, Alabama. A message from your Alabama Department of Transportation.
The Energy Institute of Alabama is the best source of energy industry information and how it affects households across the state. From convenient energy production to alternative fuels to solar power and beyond.
2/3 of drivers who died in car crashes chose to ignore this warning. Seatbelts save lives. Drive safe, Alabama. A message from your Alabama Department of Transportation.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. Josh, over the last several years, the Republican supermajority has passed an Accountability Act, which allowed for
No accountability.
state funds, state education funds, to go to scholarships that go to private schools. Then we'll talk about the history of that, and it's not good. They've also opened up charter schools, and in the process, we have found this past week, this is not the first time though, but they spend hundreds of thousands of state dollars to have lawyers to, make sure that there's compliance here, that people are doing the right thing, that the schools are the way they're supposed to be, the money is being exchanged the way, handled the way it's supposed to be. So this week you did a report where, we spend the money, but these people don't always listen to those people verifying.
One of the things that we did when we passed this charter schools bill, because it was not a very popular bill with the public education people out there, and there, surprisingly enough, there are a lot of Republicans who are very pro public education out there. They believe that that's a good fundamental way for us to move the state forward, and so in promising them this, that one of the things that they ensured that we were going to have good charter schools here and not have some of the problems that they have in some other states is the National Charter School Authorizers, the organization that we're going to review all of the applications for charter schools that we have in this state. Right. These are the experts on this. These are the people that we're going to, we needed to listen to. They assured everybody this is who we were going to listen to get this done. Well, the very first one in Montgomery came through, Lead Academy over here, and the organization, the authorizer, said, no, this is not good. This application is not good. They've failed to meet the standards on every single measurement that we've measured here, from financials to the personnel that they're putting in place, and we approved it anyway. The commission came in and approved it anyway. It's ended up in courts now before the Supreme Court, and they're waiting to, because there was a minority of the actual members. But that's the sort of thing that we have a problem with here. It's not that certainly we underfund education, but the money we do have, we have misused to an enormous degree here with this nonsense of things where we still have teachers out here buying toilet paper for the classrooms and stuff. It's just nonsense.
And it's not that we're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars with outside entities to tell us what to do, and then we don't do it. That's the craziness. But it's even more crazy when you look at the fact that the people of Alabama think we're not even spending enough on education. Well, we're throwing enough money away, but new study you reported on says
you never see numbers like this, but 80% of Alabamians that were surveyed in this PARCA study said that Alabama's public education system is underfunded. Another 65 to 85% of them said they would support different taxes to give more money to public education. So, we're looking at this, and we have gone back and forth over this. They gave like a small raise in public education last year to teachers and employees, but when are we going to actually spend the money we need to spend? Because it's ridiculous how far behind we are from other states.
The children don't, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
The children don't have textbooks. The textbooks they have are old. They're having to share them. We don't have toilet paper, paper towels, the general things that we need to have in the schools for the children. And yet we're according to KIV, our budgets are strong. But it may be strong in pencil and ink that you can erase. But when you come down to it's the parents and the grandparents and the aunts and the uncles and the people in the community like Bill and I who give money to the schools every year to make sure that somebody has a backpack or somebody has something they need.
Well,
it's crazy.
Yeah, it is. But 25 years ago, Susan, you and I were giving money to kids in the neighborhood because they had to take 25 years ago, toilet paper and Kleenexes and sheet paper and for the teachers.
And the sad thing is that while the status quo on the education budget is there, that list for parents' responsibility has grown and for teachers' responsibility to be able to teach a class has grown.
Josh, I hate to beat an analogy to death, but if you're going to beat one, you might as well beat a good one. If we funded Alabama-Auburn football like we fund education, what would it look like?
Oh, it would be terrible. I mean, it would, honestly, you wouldn't even have a team. And it's just, the thing that we have spent the most amount of money on in the last few years is this Accountability Act.
Yeah.
It has funneled millions and millions of dollars out of the public education systems here and into private hands, into the people who are sending their kids to private schools. The majority of the money is going to people who were already putting their kids in private school. So it didn't help anybody transfer out of a failing school to a non-failing school. That hardly ever happens. And now there was a study this past week that shows that the kids who have transferred out are performing no better than they were before they transferred out.
But you forget, Josh, somebody's got their fingers in that pie.
I know.
As it passes through, they get a percentage.
Every year, they brag about having the biggest education budget since the recession and all this stuff.
Every time.
We are still not back to where we were in terms of inflation with funding education.
No.
And I think, if you look at the way this has changed over time, it's now 10% higher. More people thinking that education's underfunded since 2013. It's 78% now. It was 67 or 77% in 2013. And I think a lot of people in power are from places like Vestavia Hills and Auburn and Tuscaloosa and all these places that have these amazing $80 million schools because their local places have good property taxes. But close to where I grew up, there were schools that were built in the 60s and 70s, still operating with rotten wood floors and nothing inside.
We just had one catch on fire in Montgomery called BTW a couple of weeks ago that had been condemned years ago, and we're still sending children to that school.
It's the magnet
I don't
program.
care.
No, I'm just saying.
It was uninhabitable.
It was a magnet.
What does that mean? It attracts stuff to it?
It
like
was
fire and brimstone?
Matches,
gasoline.
Not money though.
The sad thing is that year after year we say the same thing, and they promise, and they put up this pre-K program like it's the greatest thing in the world. But by the time they get to the fourth grade, they're as dumb as everybody who didn't go to the pre-K thing.
And statistically, that's been proven.
It gives everybody. The other problem is that you're only educating in the pre-K program 60% of the kids now. Yeah. So I mean, you can't only offer it to half the kids, and it be And
well, I mean, but do we care about all the kids? I mean, I'm not sure.
Historically, we have proven no.
65%. If we care about 65%, that's sort of bumping the edges of the margin there.
But if those 80% of those people that are concerned about education would pay attention and get out and vote, we might be able to get something done in this state.
We're going to have to hold it right there. This past week, we lost two people in the state political arena. One was Stephen Gordon, a political operative. The other was our very own Sam Matheson. He died at 21 years old, far too soon. Sam, you will be missed. Thank you for watching the voice of Alabama politics. You watch us because we watch them.